Now it's time to introduce our special guest. He's one of the top beat reporters in the game, and he broke the news of Cam Newton returning to Carolina last year. But now this Charlotte native is in Houston. I'm, of course, talking about Jonathan Alexander, Texans and NFL reporter for the Houston Chronicle. Jonathan, welcome. How's Houston and how's the new job treating you? And are you gonna do a quick Superman Cam Newton style or
I would not do a Superman, but no, Houston's been good so far. I've enjoyed it, and the food is great. I don't know if y'all been down here before, but the food's great in Houston. The weather is just a little bit muggy, so I'm still getting used to that.
And Jonathan, you already been traveling on the new beat. You got to go to LA. I met you in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. I just want your thoughts real quick on SoFi Stadium because I like to ask people about the new stadium the first time they see it.
Yeah, so like that was my second time, but
Oh, okay.
SoFi, yeah, I went in 2020. Panthers played the Chargers, but SoFi is definitely number one out of all the stadiums that I've been to, and I haven't been to all, but I've been to a lot of the newer ones like Minnesota, and I haven't been to Las Vegas, but definitely SoFi is my favorite. I love it.
So I guess the question would have been like, do you like it better with fans or without fans?
it was definitely weird without fans when I went. So because in 2020 when I went, it was like zero people. So to see it with fans was cool. I'd love to go to a regular season game. I'm sure it gets packed in the regular season.
Well,
we
I
got to
guess
stop
yeah,
ourselves from falling asleep when there was no
Oh man, I'm telling you, it was weird. Like y'all were covering in 2020, right?
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. What wasn't it just so weird? It to be like nearly silent, or you'd hear the fake crowd noise. That was just a weird year.
No, and the Chargers had their announcer, so like he'd be like, "Charger fans, get up! It's third down." And you're like looking around. You're like,
Oh
"Who's gonna get?"
man,
So like it was even crazier that they had their announcer there, and I'm sure he got a lot of great practice. But it was just funny to hear him like say that, like, "Get up! It's time to get
yeah,
hyped," and you're like,
yeah.
"There's no one here."
No, yeah, it was a weird year all around.
Maybe the third time, Jonathan, you'll get a real game. You got a COVID game, a preseason game, and maybe the
Yeah,
third one at SoFi, you get a real one. But Jonathan, we have you on to talk about the AFC South to help us preview the teams. We'll go through all four of them, and we'll leave the Texans for last. No pun intended on the Texans finish there. But
yeah.
let's start with the champions of last year, the Tennessee Titans, and they're kind of an interesting team on offense because they traded AJ Brown. Will Derrick Henry still have the same kind of workload, or is he on the decline? Because you know how running backs are.
Hmm.
And what's going on with the quarterback situation? Ryan Tannehill and then Malik
Yeah.
Willis balling in the preseason behind them. What do you kind of think about this offense? Should it be a little up and down, or should it be still pretty consistent as it had been the last couple of years?
Yeah, I worry when you lose, your best wide receiver. But yeah, I think they're still going to be good. I think Derrick Henry is a beast, and he can't be brought down. I don't expect him if he takes a hit. I don't expect him to have a big drop off. I think he's still going to be that beast, maybe even the leading rusher this year. Um, I think they're going to have to rely on the running game. I think Malik Willis could potentially be good in the future, but you know, he is going up against the second and third string players in the preseason. That may be contributing to why he looked good. I think Ryan Tannehill is going to win this job and continue to be the starter throughout the season. Of course, Ryan Tannehill is not going to give you anything special, but I think if he takes care of the football, then the Titans are going to be a consistent playoff type of team. They might not be competing in the AFC Championship, but I think they'll still be a solid team.
What do you think
They
about their defense? Is there something that they're kind of like not a lot of big stars, but they do well with up top in the front seven. They got the bunch of sacks on Joe Burrow last year in the playoff game, but that still didn't help them out in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But the defense, you think it'll be kind of the same as they did last year?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like really key for them, and I think that's why they've been able to be successful is by having a good defense and utilizing that running game. And I think it'll continue. I haven't seen too much of a drop off in, just looking at what they have on paper. But I think the Titans are going to stay consistent. I think they're likely going to I think the Colts might overtake them this year, but I think they're still going to be in the mix with the winner of the AFC South.
Jonathan, before we jump over to the Colts, who would win in a wrestling match, Dan Campbell or Mike Vrabel? Who you got?
I'm definitely taking Mike. I'm not gonna say I'm definitely taking Mike Vrabel, but I'm taking Mike Vrabel. He just seems like he's got it, and he aggressive dude.
He really does. Speaking about the Colts, last year they had Carson Wentz. Carson just has completely dropped off from that ACL injury that he had the year that obviously the Eagles went and won their one Super Bowl. They brought in Matt Ryan now, and it seems like the offense is flowing. They got Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly. They really have a lot of pieces on offense and defense. Does the addition of Matt Ryan, do you feel like that propels the Colts to the top of the division?
I do, because then you got Jonathan Taylor, who's just a beast, who's going to probably have another good year if he stays healthy. I mean, I think Matt Ryan. I watched Matt Ryan play, 2 years when in the NFC South, and I think despite not having the roster that he had, he was really the piece that was holding the Falcons together. He didn't have any help of whether that was offensive line or a lot of his weapons were gone last year, and he still, played well. And I think, Matt Ryan really is the key for the Colts. I think Carson Wentz, I think he's shown us what he is, and he was the reason why the Colts ultimately couldn't get over the hump. And now you add Matt Ryan, a veteran who's smart, who can throw a deep ball, who's accurate. I think he does struggle under pressure sometimes, but I think he's a really good quarterback, and I think he's ultimately going to take the Colts over the top.
10 years ago, it was all about Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, and they had some pieces on defense. It feels now like their defense has a lot of big pieces, and you add, obviously you have Shaquille Leonard, who used to go by Darius. Then you add Yannick Ngakoue, you add Stefan Gilmore to an already really good defense. How do you think their defense is going to look under Gus Bradley this upcoming season?
Yeah, I love Leonard. He's one of my favorite players to watch. And I covered Stefan Gilmore last year when he was with the Panthers. And you talk to anybody about Stefan Gilmore, he's a guy who knows his stuff. He studies the game. He's highly intelligent. And he might not be the most athletic guy, but he'll beat you to his spot because he's watched so much film on you. He knows what you're going to do. He made a few plays last year where he beat the receivers to their spots because he had saw those routes. I do worry though. He is of that age where, cornerbacks really do take a dip, but maybe he can make up for it. I based off what I've read, I've seen that he's been balling out in camp though. So you add him another piece like that, somebody smart as him, and you combine him with Leonard and some other pieces, their defense should be solid.
And Jonathan, moving over to the Jaguars, and I guess maybe a two-part question. What was going through your mind seeing all the news coming out of Jacksonville with the Urban Meyer mess, and how can this team rebound with Doug Peterson and make Trevor Lawrence reach his potential, because it was kind of a shaky rookie year with Urban, but he still has the talent and the skill. So what do you see from the Jaguars moving away from Urban Meyer?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wasn't surprised because I knew Urban Meyer was a mess. He just had a history of bad things. Ohio State, I was covering college when he was at Ohio State, and the thing was going on with his assistant coach, and it's just always one thing after another with Urban Meyer. I didn't know it was to that extent, but I mean, it still doesn't surprise me. He has talent. I covered Trevor Lawrence. I covered Carolina, but Trevor Lawrence always played Carolina every year, and Travis Etienne. I know they're good players. Trevor Lawrence, I remember seeing him in college as a sophomore and thinking like that guy's next level. So I expect him with the right atmosphere to take a step forward, and now he has a weapon who he's familiar with. I think the Jaguars are going to take a leap. I think they still have some talent that they need to continue to improve on. But they have some really good young pieces that I think in the future they'll be definitely, if they can continue to build with Doug Peterson, who I love as a coach, who I thought they fired him kind of early in Philly, and maybe they had to move on, but I think he's a really talented coach, and I do think he'll help turn around that team.
The story that got me was when he kicked his kicker, and he's like, "You see that? That's how you make a kick." And you're like, "Dude, come on!" Like,
Yeah,
are you like it was just crazy to see all the stuff that was coming out of there.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So obviously, Jonathan, can you help us make sense of what's going on right now in Houston? I mean, they finally parted ways with Deshaun Watson. He's now in Cleveland. They fired David Culley. They get Lovie Smith as their head coach, and obviously, all I've ever heard about Lovie is great things. I've never heard one bad thing said about him. So can you make sense of kind of what direction Houston is heading in this season with some of the moves that they've made?
Yeah, everybody you talk to loves Lovey. All the players. I think Houston is a few years away though. I mean, they got a lot of young pieces. Davis Mills is his second year. The thing about Houston is I think they lack a lot of the weapons to compete with a lot of these teams. I covered Panthers. I've seen them. I've seen other teams they've played against. And Houston just doesn't have a lot of playmakers. They have Brandon Cooks, and I do like Dameon Pierce and what he could potentially do. But outside of that, teams are going to know who the Texans will go to. I think in defense, they'll probably be a little bit better on defense, but they were ranked 28th in the league. They were among the bottom teams, maybe even lower, but they were among the bottom teams in defense. So, I think the Texans, a lot of young pieces like Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie, like those guys, but it's going to take some time, and I don't think the Texans are there just yet.
Yeah, I know. When Gilbert and I were covering the Chargers, we heard great things about Pep Hamilton from Justin Herbert and other guys. So Davis Mills looks like he could be a player in the league. But do you feel like that Brandon Cooks will make it through the season with the Texans? It feels like every year they kind of dangle him and for free or for trade. Do you feel like he'll end up staying with the Texans the whole season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know he was, upset about the Mark Ingram trade last year. They're in a rebuild mode. It wouldn't surprise me if they, look for teams who were looking for a wide receiver and if they thought they could get good value. I think Brandon Cooks is a really good player, but he's their best player. And I think at this point, before the season even starts, then they can't afford to part ways with him without knowing, how well they'll do. But I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. Definitely. Just given the history there, just given where they're at right now as a franchise.
There was a lot made during the offseason about Brandon Staley, Chargers head coach, had gone with Derek Stingley and he had ran him through all these plays and he started really making some noise and he jumped up. I'm not saying because of Brandon Staley or anything, but he jumped up and was a third overall pick. He's a guy that I'm sure Gilbert is too. I'm excited to watch him develop in these next few years because he looks like a baller. But besides him, do the Texans have anything else on defense, anything to be excited about, or any players that you could say, oh yeah, that guy's going to be a playmaker for them?
You said on defense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think Jonathan Grenard is a really good player. He had 8 sacks and I can't remember how many games he played last year, but he's a guy who can get after the quarterback in a hurry. I think if he stays healthy, he can have a big year. I like what they have at linebackers with Kruger Hill and with Kruger Hill and Christian Kirksey. But I think and then Derek Stingley, like you mentioned, I look at him in practice and he's battling with Brandon Cooks. Nobody can stop Brandon Cooks, but if there's somebody who has had any type of success, it would have been Derek Stingley. You could just see the instincts he has. He's jumped in front of Davis Mills passes, anticipated them, not falling for the fakes. He definitely has potential there. And I could see him easily getting a few interceptions this year if he remains healthy and if they play him full go. But Derek Stingley, Jonathan Grenard, Christian Kirksey are guys who really impressed me on this defense.
Jonathan, thank you for the insight on the 4 AFC South teams. But before we let you go, we got to get your point of view of breaking one of the biggest news last year on Cam Newton. I won't make you do the Superman thing that Fernando wants you to do. But as we know as reporters, it's stressful to break news and then kind of watch the reaction. What was that roller coaster feeling when you broke that news of Cam Newton returning to the Panthers, or at least talking to the Panthers?
Oh yeah. That was wild. So like I just remember, I had known about it the previous night, and I was just waiting to get like some confirmation from a few sources. And but that whole night I was like, like somebody's gonna beat me. I already know Ian or Adam is gonna have this. And so I
Damn
woke
you,
up.
Ian, and damn you, Adam.
So I woke up at 3 a.m. I woke up, went to sleep. Woke up at 5 a.m. Went to 4 a.m. Went to sleep. 5 a.m. Went to sleep. Woke up at 6 a.m. Stayed up for good, checking my phone just to make sure nobody, beat me. Texting sources to see if they will finally confirm, and then they finally did. And then I pre-wrote the story already, and we sent the story off, and I just put down my phone for a few minutes, and then you look at your phone 30 minutes later and it's just like going crazy. So it was something I'll never forget. It was a cool moment for me, definitely a highlight for me. So but it was definitely wild, the reaction.
What did you think about his season?
Yeah, I think it wasn't a great one. I mean, it was definitely disappointing. A lot of Panthers fans love Cam Newton and revere him, and just to kind of see him not have the same arm strength on his throws, I'm sure was definitely disappointing. And, it took him a while to, he wasn't able to grasp the offense in such a short period of time. There's a lot of pressure put on him. And that's unfortunate. Yeah. But, it's clear that he just can't throw with that same strength that he once was able to throw with.
I completely agree. Jonathan, thank you so much for jumping on with us. Jonathan, let the great folks know where they can find your stuff. Charger fans, Chargers Texans rematch of that abysmal game last year on October 2nd. It will be in Houston. Unfortunately for Jonathan, he won't be able to come to SoFi. I got a regular game. But Jonathan, please let the great folks know where they can find your awesome work.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at JONM Alexander. So that's John M. Alexander on Twitter. And you can also find me on HoustonChronicle.com/sports. And that's where you'll see most of my writing.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. We look forward to seeing all your great stuff. And who knows, maybe JJ Watt returns to the Texans and you'll break that. So definitely thank you so much for jumping on with us, and we appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.